Today, is the fake news media being subsidized by the government to the tune of tens of millions of dollars, all while turning a blind eye to Twitter, Facebook, and Google, exercising extreme prejudicial discrimination? Hi, I'm Craig, and welcome to Just Informed Talk. For those of you who don't know, every single episode starts the exact same way. I say thank you to all my subscribers because without you guys, channel wouldn't work, and there's always new subscribers every day, so I'm thankful. If you haven't hit that subscribe button already, please come here to the landing page, click the big red subscribe button, make sure you hit the bell for notifications. That way, as soon as these videos get posted, you'll be notified, because as soon as information is made available to me, I make it available to you. So we only have one post to go over today, but boy, is it a doozy. And stick around, because at the end of this, we're going to go over what President Trump's been tweeting and this whole thing with Dianne Feinstein and the double standard that exists inside of our government that has to end. So you guys stick around for that. That'll be at the end of this episode. But first, we're going to talk here briefly about this post from Q. Now, if you guys have been paying attention or watching, this was a post, and Q's responding to his own post here. And if you guys want to get caught up on everything that's going on, I encourage you to come here to the landing page and watch the last few videos. These few in particular will catch you up. This is a great video. I want you guys to help share this and get this out there. I put it together. It's the top 10 proofs of QAnon. So you know how Q always talks about how important the proofs are. Well, if you guys want to share a video, you want to share that information, this video and this video right here talking about what is QAnon. So if you're asking yourself, what is QAnon? What is this guy talking about? Come here and watch this video as well. They both are full of great information. If you're looking for an order, I would suggest watching this video first and then this video. But if you guys want to spread these, get them out there. I really appreciate it. And thank you. So now, getting into this post. It's like I said, this is a post from Q before on August 6th, where it says, the bill that opened the door for Twitter, Facebook, Google, etc. to censor and control. And it gives this link to HR 5181. Well, what is this? It's a bill that creates something to counter what they call foreign influence or foreign propaganda. So they create a center, and this center is called the Center for Information Analysis and Response. Wow. And we're going to talk about that in a second. But first, it says, think Russian bots, think foreign propaganda, the more you know, Q. Now, what is interesting is that in this post, Q is responding back to this post here. Q says, digest and understand, quote, foundation to support censorship against conservatives. And then it gives this Reddit article where somebody tweeted at Lisa May about HR 5181 and how it actually sets aside $160 million to pay alternative media journalists, among others, to spread disinformation to counter what they claim is fake news, aka truth. So this is going to show you exactly in detail how it all works. And it says all in, kill box, metaphorical kill box here with the brackets, blue wave, midterms, their entire future depends on winning majority in the House, Q. So look, this is really a big deal. Why is this a big deal? Well, there's a lot to unpack in this little post here. So let's start with just what Q was saying before about HR 5181. When you actually read through what it is, it's actually pretty terrifying. And what's even more terrifying is that this was actually stuffed into the National Defense Authorization Act back in December of 2016. And it was introduced in May of 2016. And it called for the establishment within 100 days of this Center for Information Analysis and Response. Now, what were their goals? Well, they lay out here how foreign governments have been trying to interfere in our elections, just a whole bunch of basic talking points that are used to justify them spying on the American people even further. And here's one of the things that stood out to me is that it's talking about how the establishment, what's its purpose? And the second one here, it says to establish a framework for the integration of critical data and analysis on foreign propaganda and disinformation efforts into the development of national strategy, and it goes on to list another one saying to develop, plan, and synchronize in coordination with the Secretary of Defense, the Director of National Intelligence, the Broadcasting Board of Governors, and other relevant departments and agencies, whole of government initiatives to expose and counter foreign information operations directed against the United States national security interests, and proactively advance fact-based narratives that support United States allies and interests. What this is subsidizing the fake news media to report to counter their fake news with more fake news. I know this is getting confusing. Trust me, it is. So here you even see right here where it's talking about the authorization of appropriations. It says there is authorized to be appropriated by to the Secretary of State for fiscal year 2017-2018 $20 million to support the center and provide grants or contracts of financial support to civil society groups, journalists, non-governmental organizations, federally funded research and development centers, private companies, or academic institutions for the following purposes. It says to support local independent media who are best placed to refute foreign disinformation and manipulation in their own communities, to collect and store examples of in print media and online and social media disinformation, misinformation, and propaganda directed at the United States and its allies and partners, to analyze tactics, techniques, and procedures of foreign government information warfare with respect to disinformation, misinformation, and propaganda, to support efforts by the center to counter efforts by foreign governments to use disinformation, misinformation, and propaganda to influence policies and social and political stability in the United States and United States allies and partners. All right, well, look, why aren't I getting a check? I mean, right? If they're going to be funding independent media, I don't think you can get more independent than what I am. So why aren't I getting a check from the government as part of this program? I mean, it's going into the fiscal year of 2017 and 2018. Or is that money already appropriated by Barack Hussein's administration on his way out? Oh, maybe that's the case. Well, we'll have to wait and see. I'll be checking the mailbox, see if that check comes in anytime soon. But if it doesn't, we'll persevere. And, here is just a great example of what Q's pointing out to us. That, look, our own government went in realizing that President Trump, had a chance, but they were going to do this regardless. And this is not some, whim. They've structured this out. And this is them putting it together to say, oh, well, we're going to just fund people to refute foreign disinformation. So what they do is they go on CNN, they spend 24 hours a day, 7 days a week calling the president a Russian agent. Therefore, people who cover the president in a favorable light must be Russian agents de facto, right? Since we're, by proxy. And in that circumstance, then they can actually take money from the government to prop up their failing media empires, because obviously nobody's going to pay to be propagandized. Nobody's going to pay for fake news. And this is just one of the many ways that they've figured out how to game the system against small independent journalists and small independent media outlets, because they do not want the truth to get to you. They view it as a national security issue. They truly believe that if it comes out how bad we have been infiltrated by the Chinese, that we're all the stuff's gonna hit the fan, proverbially speaking. So that to me is what we have to fight. We have to counter it. We have to say, look, it may be a hard reality to get to accept, a hard pill to swallow, but you have to admit that there has been incredible corruption at the highest levels going on for a very long time. And it involves all the way up to former administrations and the former president himself, Barack Obama, and others in his sphere, along with Hillary Clinton and the Clinton Foundation. Look, there are crimes that have been committed against our country that nobody seems to care about investigating, except literally those in Congress who are standing up and advocating for it, Devin Nunes and others, and that's pretty much it. I mean, then you have like half of America who's saying, why is nobody looking into this? And you have another half of America losing their minds, acting like toddlers, having screaming tantrums in the middle of the street whenever they see somebody they disagree with, instead of sitting down and have a conversation. Because heaven forbid they actually had to think more than, think about what they were going to say besides, screaming. But that's what that is, and it's kind of laying it out. And that's what we're seeing on Twitter. I mean, look, I don't think we should ever stop talking about the fact that Alex Jones's whole social media presence was removed basically overnight by these people. Now, I don't care if you agree or disagree with Alex Jones, but is there any part of anyone out there that really believes that this is the answer? Even if you disagree wholeheartedly with Alex Jones and you think he's a double agent or whatever. I've heard all types of things. Even if that was the case, it's like, then they're setting the president to do it to everyone else. And if nobody stands up and does anything about it, then it's just going to continue to happen. So this is the next one. It says, digest and understand, foundation to support censorship against conservatives. That's a great way of putting it, right? That's what this whole institute center is. The center is a foundation to support censorship against conservatives. And then we read this, which is Lisa Mace talking here about, and it wasn't Lisa May actually, excuse me. It was somebody who tweeted out this post right here, and their name is Patriot with a Q there, and they're at I voted T. Obviously, they voted for Trump, but it says, talking to Lisa May, saying, here we go. It says HR 5181 was stuffed into the 2016 National Defense Authorization Act on 12/2/16. Basically, $160 million was set aside to pay alt media journalists, among others, to spread disinformation to counter what they claim is fake news, aka the truth. And they're saying this is why so many people flipped on Q, obviously, if they're being paid to do it. Now you go into these and they kind of give you sections that we've went over about what the center is supposed to do and what all this funding is meant for. It talks about how, with the consent of the secretary and without regard to the civil service laws and regulations, they can appoint and terminate a director and such other additional personnel as may be necessary. So they can staff it however they want. Here it talks about the WikiLeaks putting together about the Authorization Act, the National Defense Authorization Act, and how it put aside $160 million over a 2-year period to fight this. So, look, to me, this explains a lot. This puts a lot together about how there's a lot of money out there. We see here in HR, they just have $20 million right here that's going to independent media to refute foreign disinformation. And if they call QAnon, they call Trump, they call us all Russians. We're basically all Russian agents, Russian bots, if you will. That's what they call us, especially if you show support for anything that's against their agenda. And when they call us Russian bots, then they can support media to go out and write hit pieces on us and to dismiss us and to summarily call us all conspiracy theorists and to make claims about us that are untrue. So look, let's all do more research into this. Let's bring this to the attention of those in power. Reach out to whoever you can, whether it's friends, family, your local representatives. Whatever it is, we have to draw attention to this and say, where is this money actually going? Who is being funded? Who decides what is foreign disinformation? Is it just facts that they disagree with, or facts that they don't, the embarrassing truth about how federal agencies inside the United States were used against their own citizens in illegal spying based off of phony documents that were paid for by political adversaries to the parties being spied on? Yeah, maybe that's something they don't want to report. Maybe they'll call that foreign disinformation, right? Exactly. So that's kind of what it's saying there, and it says all in blue wave. So the blue wave is going to end, in my opinion. It's floundering out. You look at what happened with the elections just today. The socialist-backed candidates lost mostly. I think that Ocasio-Cortez was 2 out of 8 endorsements. So 6 of the people she endorsed lost, and the 2 that won were going to win no matter what. They were, as far as I saw with the graphics and numbers. But then you have President Trump, who is tweeting out how he went 5 for 5. And we can look at that in a second. But before we do that, let's start here with Dianne Feinstein, or Feinstein, however you want to say it. But here's President Trump saying, Dianne is the person leading our nation on collusion with Russia, only done by Dems. Will she now investigate herself? Because there's details that have emerged about back, I think, 5 years ago. She had in her employment a literal Chinese spy who was like her driver/gopher. Yeah, that's not a joke. In the San Francisco office of Dianne Feinstein, there was actually an employee who was spying on her for the Chinese, right? And now, how did the FBI handle that? That's the real question, because that's what we talk about when we talk about the double standard. And this Fox article kind of lays it out pretty well. It says FBI's handling of alleged Feinstein spy spurs claims of double standard with Trump campaign. So what happened was back in 2013 when they figured out, the FBI, that there was a spy working for this woman who has very deep connections to China. We're going to go over those in a second. But when they found that out, okay, they literally went to her and said, hey, you have a spy working for you. And she fired him, and then he stayed in the political sphere. I mean, he was up to, I read an article all the way up to 2017. He was still attending functions with representatives of, I believe, the state legislature there in California, or actually the House of Representatives, I believe. So that's incredible in and of itself, right? This guy was recruited by the Chinese, and he was reporting to them on our politicians here. But that's how they handled it with her. What did they do for Trump? This is what they did to Trump. I'll tell you what they did. He was running for office. They got this fake dossier, right? They went out, had that produced, and then they used that to spy on him because after they thought, maybe he had Russia colluded with the Russians, or they were in some way influencing his campaign, instead of going to him and saying, look, Carter Page, this guy, he's known to talk to the Russians. You need to get rid of him. He's not a good dude, or whatever. Not even saying that Carter, that's all true about Carter Page, that what he's been put through. But hypothetically, that's what they should have done based on the precedent they set with Dianne Feinstein. No, instead of that, what they did is they put more spies into Trump's campaign and then used fake information to spy on him further. And they spied on him all the way through the election. So, to me, another example of the double standard. Let's not investigate Hillary Clinton, the 33,000 classified emails, the bleach bit, the acid wash, the smashing of her cell phones or Blackberries, the destroying of evidence, the withholding of subpoenaed evidence, beyond the pale. Anybody knows with half a brain cell that you need to be investigating somebody who's doing that kind of crime, right? No. Let's not investigate that. Let's just go ahead and we'll start investigating Paul Manafort for a tax evasion from 2005. Yeah, that's really what they did. And then, not only that, you have these sycophant Hillary Democrat lovers working at the FBI in charge of these investigations, texting each other, saying how much they hate our president, how much they want to stop him, how they're going to put together an insurance policy against him. Right? That's the double standard that exists. There's no equality of law if they just literally have favorite people they work with, like Dianne Feinstein. Look at her history. Look at this. It says, this is a report out of the Federalist, and it's talking about how her ties to China go way deeper than an alleged office spy. This woman has been advocating for China since like the 80s, and her husband's become rich in Chinese business. And then they divert money back to nonprofits saying they don't make money. Yeah, right. Well, you get paid to work and to be a board member at your nonprofit, I'm sure, right? But here's a quote from Dianne Feinstein that started out, and this kind of sums it up. It says, I sometimes say that in my last life, maybe I was Chinese. No, maybe in this life you are a Chinese operative, possibly. Maybe. Because if you read this story, it puts together so much information. And what I like about this story is that, I read through the whole thing, but at the end here, it sums it up. And I want to read through these bullet points, and they'll kind of tell you what you need to know about her connection to China. Now, there's a lot here, but let's review the facts. It says China has, for almost 40 years, cultivated warm relations with Feinstein. Feinstein has uniformly taken political positions supporting greater ties with China while taking a relatively dovish and strictly apologist line on its human rights atrocities. Feinstein's husband has profited handsomely during Feinstein's career from the greatly expanded China trade she supported. It is of course possible that the Feinstein family's privileged position with the Chinese regime improved his investment opportunities. Feinstein has served as a key intermediary between China and the U.S. government while serving on committees whose work would be of keen interest to the People's Republic of China. A staffer of almost 2 decades in close proximity to Feinstein was allegedly successfully recruited by China's intelligence agency and fed China political intelligence. All right. It doesn't even mention there how her and her husband are best buddies with former president of China, Jiang Zemin. Why is that important? Well, because he has been accused of so many human rights violations, so many human rights atrocities, especially going back looking at what the persecution of the Falun Gong practitioners in China who were merely practicing, meditative civil disobedience, where they would go and meditate in public, and they were targeted as political prisoners, and all types of atrocities were committed against them in the name of the Communist Party that was being headed by Jiang Zemin, or Zemin, I can't say his name correctly, I'm sure I butchered it, but you know who he is. If you watch China Uncensored, that's a great show. I encourage everybody to check out what they do. They cover this stuff in a lot of detail. But look, this is, these are the people who are trying to litigate and to tell us policy on China while being Chinese apologists, making millions and millions of dollars over in their country, using cheap factory labor and preferential investment opportunities because of their ties. That's ridiculous, okay? And this story has to get bigger because this woman's the loudest voice out there, one of the loudest voices out there, saying President Trump's colluding with Russia. No, how about this? Is Dianne Feinstein colluding with China? Because it says here, as I said before, President Trump's tweet, Dianne is the person leading our nation on collusion with Russia, only done by Democrats. Will she now investigate herself? Yes, let's see. Will she investigate herself? That's the great question. So I'm going to go ahead and just leave it there for that. But before we go, I want to talk about one quick thing, and that is just how we have here WikiLeaks saying that they are going. The Senate panel has a Senate panel has requested Assange's testimony. Now, this is a story that's just breaking today, and I have no idea how this would work considering his status right now. But we'll keep an eye on this story, and I'll report more once more information is made available. But they just want to have him sit down for a closed door session on Capitol Hill to hear what he has to say about this Russia probe. And I say, please, let's hear what he has to say at least. That would not be a bad thing to hear what happened, because this is one of the men who was responsible for the whole WikiLeaks Podesta email dump, and then everything that subsequently followed after that. So you guys go and you guys can check this out for yourself if you want to get more info on this story. But that's pretty much going to wrap it up for this episode. I want to say thank you to everybody who's watched. If you're looking for a way to contribute, the best way to do it is to come here to the landing page. If you haven't already, click the big red subscribe button. Make sure you hit the bell for notifications so you'll be notified when these videos get posted. The second best way is to scroll down at the end of this video and leave your thoughts, theories, and insights in the comments, because like I say, at the end of each one of these videos, we try our best to have our own QAnon research board where we don't just go over what Q posts, we go over the facts, what the mainstream media won't cover, and politics, religion, culture, everything in between. It's a great conversation with a lot of great people who chime in regularly. So if you guys want to get that, even if you don't or can't comment, just scroll down and read through the comments at the end of this video. You'll very much enjoy that. Now, another way you can support the channel is to come over here and find me on Twitter at Justin_formed. Again, that's at Justin_formed on Twitter. And I really appreciate all your support you guys show me over here. If you guys want to come give me a follow, that makes a big difference. Obviously, I'm being shadow banned and all types of different things. But you can find me, hopefully, and when you do, please give me a follow, because that is basically the best way you can help out. Now, if you're looking to contribute financially, I really, really am thankful. You guys can come over here to Patreon, patreon.com, and you can search Just Informed Talk. When you come here, click this button to become a patron. Check out my rewards. I really appreciate all the support. If you guys want to get more involved with that, that's great. And this is a monthly donation. So if you're not interested in making a monthly donation, but you still want to contribute financially, you can come over here to gofundme.com/just-informed. Again, gofundme.com/just-informed. And when you come here, you click this button to make one-time donation. You can do it anonymously if you want, and I really, really am thankful for everybody who's come over here and supported this channel. So thank you so much for that. Now, before we go, we're going to take a second to talk about the most important thing, and we're going to talk about God's grace being greater. And today we're going to look to a really important story in the Bible that, kind of says so much in such a short little story. And it's talking about the call of Matthew. So Matthew is one of Jesus' 12 disciples. And the story of how he basically came to be that is pretty simple. He was a tax collector who was called by Jesus to follow him, and he did. But this story actually talks a lot about why we have to always reach out to not people who agree with us, but those who disagree with us. And I'll explain that after I read this verse. It's Matthew chapter 9, verses 9 and forward, talking about the call of Matthew. It says, as Jesus went on from there, he saw a man named Matthew sitting at the tax office, and he said to him, follow me. So he got up and followed him. While he was reclining at the table in the house, many tax collectors and sinners came as guests to eat with Jesus and his disciples. When the Pharisees saw this, they asked his disciples, why does your teacher eat with tax collectors and sinners? But when he heard this, he said, those who are well don't need a doctor, but the sick do. Go and learn what this means. I desire mercy and not sacrifice, for I didn't come to call the righteous, but sinners. And we need to practice a lot. We need to practice that more for ourselves, I think. I know I do. And that's what I try to do with this channel. A lot of people write and say, why do you always talk about God at the end? It's for exactly that reason. As our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ said, those who are well don't need a doctor, but the sick do. And he says, go and learn what this means. And for me, that means spreading my message to anyone who will listen. And I'm not ever going to stop, and I'm never going to relent in the calling that I've been drawn to by our Lord to spread his word. And I think we all need to take that. But then we need to take it to another level as well, to go out and reach out to those who disagree with us, to reach out to the other side of the aisle, even in these charged times now where we have people, brother against brother, father against son, mother against daughter, whatever. This is really a time where we have to make an effort to understand the words of Jesus. Jesus asks us to follow him, but Jesus doesn't lead us to the richest and the most healthy, because they're not the ones who need Jesus, or the people who go to church every Sunday or whatever. Jesus leads us to go out into the world and find all of the sinners and bring them to the table, because it's our duty to bring them back to the glory of God. There is a light out there, and it's God's light, and we're all drawn to it. But some are blind. Some have an inability to see through the wool that's been pulled over their eyes. So remember, in everything that we do, in every way that we do it, it's good that we share every day in our own fellowship and support our other fellow Christians and be there for one another to help us live by that way. I know I do it. I'm very proud to help and be a part of a great church community and to do a lot of great things and have the opportunity and privilege to be blessed to do some things for the community at large and for others. But remember that the community includes everyone. And God says it very clearly that those who do not want to receive the message of God will not, and those that do will. And it is up to us to go to those who may be overlooked. And we need to find them, and we need to bring them the message of God, and we need to bring them the help that God calls us to give, whether it's spiritual or financial or in any way you can imagine. So I encourage you all to go out and remember the words of our Lord. He says, I desire mercy and not sacrifice, for I didn't come to call the righteous, but sinners. So there you go. I want to thank you all for watching this episode. If you guys enjoyed that, make sure you come here. If you have not already, please click the big red subscribe button. Make sure you hit the bell for notifications. Now is a great time to do it. But I want to thank you all for watching here, and I appreciate all of your support always. And I pray for each and every one of you that you go out and you find those who need God and you help bring it to them, because that's what God calls us all to do. And I'm just blessed to be here with you guys and able to do it. So thank you again for watching Just Informed Talk. My name is Craig. Godspeed and God bless each and every one of you, Patriots.